guys, it's me, Mrs. Main, and I'm here to show you how to make a scale map. I'm going to do that by making a scale map of my classroom. The first step is to sketch your space. So I sketched a quick drawing of my classroom. It doesn't have any of the tables or the chairs or all of the junk. Remember I told you to ignore the junk? But I've got the two doors, I've got the massive closet thing, and I've got the cabinets and the whiteboard because they take up floor space. Otherwise, my classroom is basically a rectangle. The next thing I did was measure. So you can see here that in blue, I have a measurement in feet. I just got a tape measure and measured. So my classroom is 32 feet long by 27 feet wide. I took a few more measurements because I've got this weird closet thing. The closet is 15 feet long and it sticks out 3 feet. So I have a few more measurements here. If you don't have a measuring tape, don't freak out. All you have to do is measure it in something standard. So now I'm going to go measure my entire classroom again, but instead of measuring in feet this time, I'm going to measure it in dictionaries. This is what we call a standard measurement because it's the same size. I'm just going to set the dictionary down and then flip it over and then flip it over. So I'm going to come back and do all the measurements again in dictionaries. You choose whether to do it in feet with a measuring tape or inches if you want, or something standard like a dictionary, a shoe, a big box, any way you'd like to do it. Okay, so now I've measured again. This time I measured in dictionaries the long way, not the skinny way. This is what we call a standard measurement. As long as you use the same thing to measure, it doesn't really matter. It looks like my dictionary is not quite a foot long. I think it's roughly about 9.5 or 10 inches. So the measurements are close, but they're not exact. You could also use something like a pencil or a pen, but I chose to use something bigger because my room's kind of big. So the second step is measure. You can do this with a tape measure or with something, as long as it's the same thing. Once you have the measurements, it's time for the hard part, determining the scale. I have a ruler here and a pen. You should use a pencil in case you need to erase. And then I have 2 pieces of graph paper. If you don't have graph paper, you can just use regular paper and your measurements are going to be a little different. You'll say 1 inch equals 1 foot or something like that. I like graph paper because then I can say 1 box equals 1 foot. Now, 1 box equals 1 foot would work really well on this small graph paper because my classroom is 32 feet long and I've definitely got 32 of these little boxes. I might even have 38 of these little boxes. If you measure my classroom in dictionaries, it's 38.5 dictionaries long. But if I have this smaller graph paper here, I'm going to have to change my scale a little bit. I don't have 32 of these, so I might have 1 box equal 2 feet. If I just have regular paper, I can measure that paper and see how long it is. This looks like about 11 inches, this paper, by 8.5. So I'm going to have to do a little dividing. 1 inch equals 1 foot will not work on this paper because I need a paper that was 32 feet long. So I could try millimeters. No, I don't have 30 of those. I could try 1 inch equals 5 feet, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That's about right. So decide on your scale. Like I said before, this is going to be the very hardest part. You have to pick a scale that's going to fit your paper and the dimensions of your room. Okay guys, here's my first one. I measured for this one. So 1 inch is 5 feet is my scale. This is the verbal method because I'm just literally telling you 1 inch equals 5 feet. So I just lay my ruler down. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. I just lay my ruler down and went 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and then just a little more, 32. You can see that I messed up a couple of places, which is why I highly recommend you do this in pencil, not pen. Here is the exact same map, but I used graph paper this time. This is the graphic method too, because 1 box equals 1 foot. I had to move it and put the scale over here as well. Learn from my mistakes, friends. I put the scale up here, but then I didn't count before I started drawing, and so my scale ended up in the middle of where my cabinets and whiteboard were supposed to go. But here it is again in a slightly different scale, and then here it is one more time in this scale. This is the graphic method again. 1 box equals 2 feet. And again, you'll see I should have measured first before I put down my scale. So these are 3 different ways of doing it. If you really wanted to, you could do the fractional method, but I would not recommend that. I'd recommend that after you do your map, you put your scale in the graphic method, or just tell me. That's the verbal method. So this is what I'm looking for your final draft. It has to be done to scale and pretty neatly. If I was going to turn this in, I might do it one more time and get rid of that little squiggle where I messed up. But I have the scale written down really clearly. I have my map drawn to scale. That's all we're doing this week. Next week, things are going to get even more interesting. But first, I want you to just master making a scale map. You got to walk before you can run.